Kia ora. Kia ora tato.
Kia ora.
On today's loop back, Hamish is just lurking in the corner.
With
Oh
Abby.
God, they have me tied up, help!
To be honest, sometimes that's how it feels in 2026 when you're a woman in the world. It's like,
Nice.
can we just put all the men in a back room?
We'll take the front seat. They can sit in the back.
What does it mean to have a human in the loop?
Human in the loop.
Human in the loop. What in the world is a human in the loop?
Being a human in the loop.
AI in the loop. Humans in charge.
Welcome to Human in the Loop. Today, I thought it would be awesome to have Heather Polaschek, who is our head of people and performance at Rush, and almighty advocate for all things women in tech. And she often says that International Women's Day is one of her favourite days of the year. And so, as it is early March and the IWD is upon us,
It is.
here she is to share some wisdom and lift us all.
Okay.
No pressure.
We're lifting.
Please excuse my typing while I just type. I'm just going to bang into Perplexity. Stats on women.
I have some.
Oh, hit
I
us
have
with
some
your...
pre-prepared.
See, you said you didn't come prepared, but you're born ready.
I did do some stats because it's also very interesting. And I usually would look them up for International Women's Day as well because it's a good time to...
Yeah.
And there is some positive stuff.
Hit us with the good stuff first.
New Zealand's gender pay gap has actually decreased from 8.2% in June to 5.2% in
Big
June
drop.
2025. Yes, quite a big drop actually.
Good.
Still, there is obviously a higher gap for Māori, Pacifica, disabled wahine, but seeing some progress with it down to 5.2%. That's the best I've ever seen it. So that's pretty cool. That's probably the positive stuff.
No more? Is there more? Not yet? Okay. What are some things we'd like to put on the let's work on that pile?
There's still, so, New Zealand now has the investment gap.
Oh, excuse me, no. Is there
Yes.
another gap we have to learn about?
We do. It's a fantastic gap.
Okay, I've
though.
not heard of this.
Teresa Gatting, it's
Yep.
her report that she does with where the investment money in Aotearoa goes. And so, I mean, some stats to be improved upon. Female-only founded startups are currently shut out at 97 cents in every dollar. So 3 cents in every dollar is invested in women-only founded startup.
That's a horrible gap. What's another
But they've
positive?
I think they've had it for 2 years. So they've just recently started measuring it. It's one of those things, like when we measure it and we talk about it and we realise the extent of the gap, then there's only up.
That's
And
true.
it's pretty low, so it can only really go up.
Well, it's interesting because then you point out if no one's ever focusing on it, it's just allowed to drift. I mean, our wonderful woman head of finance and risk shared with us today the property gap, the property and investment gap on the not the invested in point of view, but the amount of money and capital to invest,
Yep.
which is another gap. Yep. Gaps everywhere.
It's everywhere.
I don't know if this is still true to this day, but you might know better. In tech specifically, that women still make up just 29% of the New Zealand tech workforce, and that's a stat that really hasn't shifted in decades.
Yeah, last I looked, very similar around that.
Also says that globally, half of all women who enter tech leave the industry by age 35.
Wow. So
And
pretty
here
much as
we
soon as they
are,
hit
a
childbearing
budget, a
age.
couple of
What do you mean we're not in
a
that
couple
young
of
mid-30s
millennial
age?
women blazing the trail. I mean, we work in a tech company. You could argue not in tech, but tech adjacent, flying the flag for tech.
We're tech. I'd call us tech.
The way you vibe code, I'd believe you're tech. But I do know that you're really passionate about specific initiatives. So on the, instead of getting mad, let's do something about it. What are some of the things that you have seen happening in New Zealand tech or in the industry or even within our own four walls that you feel are making a decent impact?
Lots. I mean, I think what's the coolest thing that happens, I think, in women in tech communities, I don't know if it's just New Zealand or it is global, is the community itself. So, we do these women in tech meetups, we do women in tech events, and they are always incredible events. And so I think it's this very tight-knit community. So, what is most important is that when women come into the industry, they feel supported. They understand that while there might not be as many women as there are in other industries, that the community itself is actually very tight. So you're going to get this great community when you join. So that's, the Women in Tech, meetup, which is happening next week. And it's that's been going for 12 years. So many more women have come through that. So, initiatives like that are really good, but it's got to be the whole way around. So the community is a big part. Women in tech meetups, recruitment initiatives, all of that's really important. Within organisations, those supports as well. So, we have our Women and Non-Binary group. Within your company, you need to have those support networks as well. Those days when you're frustrated by, being mansplained to, or your idea being thrown at someone else, having a community. Hamish looks at me. Hamish doesn't do that.
I was just going to explain how that works to you.
I'm used to it. Having those support networks within a company is also really important. And so we know that everybody here is very supportive. So actually there's also allies as well within that. But so the external group, internal, and then throughout is also really important. So we've been doing more and more with universities and high schools because we've got to get more girls and women to study tech, right?
Right. So when it comes to hiring women in tech roles, both of you have worked in tech businesses for a really, really long time and have been privy to the hiring processes over time. I'm curious how you've seen it change over the decade-ish plus. Are you seeing particular trends, like more women coming through for particular roles? Are you seeing the way that women advocate for themselves in tech better? Like, what are the signals? What kind of signals are you seeing now that you maybe didn't see a decade ago?
I think it's actually the allyship. So the conversation 10 years ago to recruitment was having to convince hiring managers and senior leaders of the importance of having a diverse talent pool and that we need more women in engineering, more women in leadership. Just don't need to have those conversations to the same extent anymore. Danu, Hamish, they're constantly saying, I've noticed we don't have any women in the pipeline. So it's gone from that conversation to actually being raised as a challenge through the recruitment process. That's very different. So the allyship, I think, and that's still not everywhere, but yeah, much more frequent. What would you say, Hamish and Abby?
So there's a couple of I'm very old, and so like from when I was first at university, like it was almost exclusively a male occupation, right? At my university class of 300 something people in Comp Sci 101, there were 2 women. That had both a negative effect just in terms of the number of people who might possibly pass through, but also you imagine an environment in which there are 298, well-meaning but still computer nerd comp sci men and 2 women, and it was a pretty unwelcoming sort of environment. Yeah. That's definitely changed. Like you go to comp sci classes these days, you see usually roughly 50-50 split. I think the big other change that's happened more recently, you might have to edit this out because it's a bit depressing, sexual harassment and like the sexualization of the workspace has become unacceptable, right? Like Me Too was not that long ago. And while there were certainly lots of competent female programmers coming through the pipeline, the spaces that you were going into in software development houses were still quite masculine-dominated spaces, right? And you still see that in the news quite often, right? Especially in the gaming industry, it's taken a bit longer to move, especially in America than some other spaces. And so you'll see like Riot Games still shows up in the news every so often as having an extremely masculine culture, and like the parties are very organized around male enjoyment and the male gaze and all that sort of thing. And that's not really the case in New Zealand so much, right? Like people are much more men are much more aware of the need to make the space welcoming for women, that it's not a place that's appropriate for like using as a dating pool, and
Yeah, I suppose there's been the last 10 years, diversity and inclusion's been a big part of workplaces. And so with that is equal opportunity and also creating safer spaces for diversity, underrepresented communities, women. And so that's led to a whole lot of the progress as well, right? So more of a focus on how many women we get in leadership, setting targets and quotas, which can be a controversial topic. And then we've seen more and more women leaders actually as an example as well. So yeah, workplaces are safer. It's a more exciting place to get into tech. So it's more appealing for women. There's these communities that you get within the space. And then there's some really exceptional women in leadership, just not enough, and it takes, to really see the effect, to have 50-50 in your workplace, you need to have several women leaders, and then everyone wants to work for them. And so you get lots more women underneath that, but there's still not that, we're hunting at the moment for roles, and there's still a lack. There's clearly a broken ladder, that if women are checking out of the workforce at 35 when they tend to have kids, then that's what happens, and we're missing that great skill and knowledge. And
yeah, I mean, I've talked before, I can't remember, one of our many fans who religiously listen to the podcast and note down all of my incredible insight will be able to say what episode I was talking about systemic racism, right? But I think we still are in a space where positive bias is required to overcome some of the systemic gender bias that still exists in the environment, and that's going to exist for a while yet. I mean, again, coming back to like what's changed, it feels like that's less necessary now. We are getting lots of good candidates through without having to make specific outreach into more female-oriented spaces to find people. We are, because of the improvement in inclusive environment generally, it's easier to get people through without having to make specific deliberate allowance to sort of bring people in. But I still think we're in a space where there is still enough systemic impedance to women who want to enter tech, and especially who want to enter the hard engineering side of tech, that there is still a need for positive bias.
As working mothers, we are both out of here in 5 minutes anyway.
We're juggling, got a 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're picking up the kids between 4:30 and 5 before more phone screens.
Yeah. And that's one of the challenges, and yet also opportunities in any kind of workforce, and we're lucky in a company like Rush, and the type of work we do in particular is the flexibility offered to working mums to recognise, like, part of the reason, like you said, if you're getting out of tech or any career at a certain age, it's often because it's very hard to have it exist alongside the duties that you have as a mother that you don't want to drop necessarily. So to be able to smash out some work, still do school pickup, be there for the kids, and I'll see you on Slack at about midnight. She laughs because it's true. So last question in our dying minutes, how are you seeing AI tools and processes impact gender at a macro scale, but also in a workplace? And maybe speak a bit to the hackathon that we're going to be doing, because that's just like a fun.
Yeah. So I guess the negative part of the AI models, I guess, is obviously they're built on biased data. It's built on, the internet's predominantly designed and built by men. The data is bias, and so structurally the data that's in AI is bias. I did that test for like the first 2 years when ChatGPT came out about who's the youngest number one golfer, and it kept coming up with men's names, and it'd change every time I went in, and it never said Lydia Ko, and I just kept going back and asking the question because it just didn't get that a woman golfer could be number one. So it's trained on biased data. So what we're seeing and what people are using it for is therefore inherently going to be biased. So there's a real challenge in that. And what Melissa Clark Reynolds was talking about the other day at Daybreak, and how we're seeing AI personas and how women are taking more of the like support administrative type roles and men profiles are taking more of the leadership type roles, which was really interesting. Do you remember talking about that?
Oh, explain it a little more. What do you mean?
So when we've got, because there's more and more of these sort of like coaches, leadership, there's recruiters. So there's these kind of personas which are being created, right?
You mean as like a wrapper around
Yeah, or it might
an
be,
AI?
yeah, like a person. So, okay, I'm going to go and see a leadership coach now and I'm going to have an AI that does that. Or I've got a tool that does recruitment and it's got a face to it and it's going to, and so those, she was talking about how those roles are being assigned with gender specific, much more like society. So the more administrative type roles tend to be more women profile. So that's something that's interesting that's coming out, this bias and how it's being created.
Like here's your AI Dr. Mike and your AI nurse
and your AI
Shelley.
nurse. Yeah. A CEO is more likely to be portrayed as a man because we're not designing systems to be any different. We're still working all in the same way and chucking AI in it rather than rethinking. But on the plus side, the access for us to be able to grow our careers is so much greater. And so I see that, my own personal role, doing 2 roles now and being able to pick up managed services. Could I have done that 5 years ago when I didn't have the accessibility to information I do now? My role, I'm able to juggle 2 roles and learn so much, and I still know 1/10 of what's needed for the role, but I can research so quickly and I can build plans and I can understand quickly. I can learn how to sell because I've got these great tools to allow me to do it. So it's allowed me to pick up a role that I never would have expected I could do because of the accessibility of AI and how we're using it. That's pretty cool.
And to be clear, that's 2 work roles on top of your role.
2 work roles. 2 work roles. Yeah, 2 fun work roles. What was the other question? I can't remember.
Well, to close off, just tell us about the exciting experiment we're going to do this
Yes.
Friday, which is an AI hackathon focused at the intersection of feminist issues and other types of inequality.
Yeah, so we celebrate International Women's Day every year. I think I have done for the last 10 years. And we do lots of panels and lots of conversation, which is awesome. But we thought we'd do something different this year. And so we decided to turn it more into action and get the whole business to focus on doing a hackathon with the theme around either how is this going to help women or intersectionality, so women with disabilities or women in culture, and what is something that we can, is it a framework that we can design or a tool, or is it something we can build into an existing product that will make life better? What is that? And so far I think we've got 10 different project ideas and the week's not even finished yet, so there's some really exciting ideas. It's going to be great.
It is going to be great. I'm going to try really hard to put my feminist perimenopausal rage on hold for the day and look for the positive things.
I think
hey, you will love to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I think I've seen 3 men have come up with ideas, which is very good. Damien was very excited about his. Shout out, Damien.
Shout out, Damien. Be an ally. Okay, that's all we've got time for in order to make school pick up.
Nice.
And thank you, Heather.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks for building our inclusive culture at Rush. And we'll try and do like a little follow-up article, something post, probably on LinkedIn or somewhere, about the results of the hackathon. So if you're interested about what it is that we develop, what we do, if you want to run an idea like that, get in touch.
Oh, God, they kicked me right in my privilege. Oh.
So good, Hamish.